Hi, second grade. Welcome back. This is your Wit and Wisdom lesson for Tuesday, April 14th. We are going to get right into our lesson today. We have a lot to cover. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see what we are going to work on today. We're still covering the digestive system module. There we go. Okay. Maybe I'm getting a little faster at this. We can always hope. All right, so before we start, let's get our brains ready to learn. So take your deep breath. Be ready to think. Be ready to share your ideas with your learning partner. Try and stay focused throughout the lesson. If you need to take a break, you can and come back. And look forward to learning. We're learning some new things this week about all of the inner workings of your digestive system. So this week we'll have a chance to practice writing and gathering some research to prepare to write. So be looking forward to that. What do you need? So today you need your quiet space, as always, your paper and pencil, something to write with. You will need your blue Wit and Wisdom workbook, a learning partner to help you discuss the topics that we're working on today. If you need to pause while you go get any of those items, go ahead and just hit pause and come back as soon as you're ready. What are we going to talk about today? So the first thing that you're going to be able to do when we are done with today's lesson is experiment with some shared research. So last week we talked about what was shared research, but today you're going to work on gathering some of your own research and seeing what that all involves when you gather your own research. We're going to look at some of the different parts of our book and learn why the glossary in particular is a valuable tool. And we're going to work on some of our vocabulary words. So you'll learn some new vocabulary words, and we're going to practice some of our vocabulary words we've had up until now, so we can kind of get those words stuck in our brain to use later on when we see them. We can pull them out of the dictionary in our mind and know what those words mean as we are reading. Okay, so the essential question, we're still talking about this big question for our module: how does food nourish us? So the word that was new, our new vocabulary word, was nourish. Let's see, I want to see if you can remember what the word nourish means. So take just a moment, look at your learning partner, and see if you can explain to them, what does the word nourish mean? I'll give you just a few minutes, few seconds to think about that. If you need to pause the video, you can. If you said something like, it is what is the food needed to live, grow, and stay healthy, that's what your body does with it, you would be correct. So make sure, if you were not familiar with that word, that you start trying to think about how that word works in this module, because we're going to use it for the next 6 weeks or so. Let's practice some of our vocabulary words from last week. So I'm going to show you the definition. So this is like at the end of the module when we take our vocabulary quiz. So this is what it kind of looks like if you remember. I will give you the definition, and then you need to come up with the word. Okay, so if I say a group of parts that works together, I want you to think about what that means, and it is a system. To break down food into materials your body can use. Think about what that is. What breaks down the food? That is digest. Parts of the body that work together to break down food. Oh, now we put those two words together. What is it? It is the digestive system. What is something that makes or generates something new? To make or generate something new is to produce something. What is something to do with your stomach? That's a tricky one. Gastric. Remember, those are the juices and things that are in your stomach. Tiny one-celled living things. Some bacteria that cause disease. Oh, goodness. I have to think about that one. It's called Bacteria. There was a clue in that definition. A slimy fluid that protects the breathing passages and the stomach. What are those? That is called mucus. Okay, on those vocabulary words, we will practice those every couple of days like that, but you are always welcome to go back and rewind the video if you would like to practice them on your own. But we'll have the rest of the module to really commit those to our memory. All right, so today we're going to be talking more about why is shared research important. Okay, so think about, what did we decide shared research was last week? Turn to your partner and tell them if you remember, what was shared research? If you said that it's when you work with a group or team to gather information on the same subject, you would be correct. So when people divide up the work, because there's so much information out there, that is called shared research. You're sharing the amount of work. Let's watch a quick video that will walk us through some of the steps of gathering our own shared research. Let's start it right here.
As we move into part 2 of lesson 3, we are going to learn about how shared research works. To begin understanding how research works, I would like for you to take a few moments to silently think about what you already know about shared research. Did you think about researchers read pieces of information on a topic several times in order to gain a deeper understanding? They do this to get a deeper understanding of what is being communicated about the information. In today's lesson, we are going to experiment with conducting shared research on 2 parts of the digestive system, the mouth and the esophagus. Often researchers start with questions. As researchers, we are going to start with the question, what important jobs does this organ do as part of the digestive system? Today, we are going to practice shared research on 2 organs, the mouth and the esophagus. You will practice gathering shared research using the text, The Digestive System, by Jennifer Pryor. I will read sections of this text aloud, and you will listen carefully. Then, I will reread smaller portions so you can record information you think will answer the research question. Before I read pages 10 through 13 aloud, you will need to create this graphic organizer on a sheet of paper. Please pause the video now and create the graphic organizer to record evidence to answer the question. I am now going to read pages 10 through 13. As I read, I want you to listen for information that could help us answer our research question. What important jobs does this organ do as part of the digestive system? Remember, the organs we are researching are the mouth and esophagus. Mouth. The first step in the digestive process begins with the mouth. You use your teeth to chew food and break it into smaller pieces. Saliva in the mouth helps soften the food as it is chewed. This is because there are chemicals in saliva. They change the food. For example, they turn starches into simple sugars. Saliva breaks down food into smaller pieces. Then the food is swallowed. When you swallow, the pharynx of the back of the mouth pushes the food into the esophagus. The best food to put in your mouth is food that tastes good and is good for you. It makes your mouth water. When people talk about their mouths watering, they mean their mouths are producing saliva. Another way to say it is salivating. Esophagus. The esophagus is a tube made of a muscle that connects the mouth to the stomach. Mucus glands line the inside of this tube. The mucus coats the food as it makes its way down. Food bits are moved down the tube by contractions. Contractions are like waves of movement. They move the food to the stomach. Now that I have completed a first read of pages 10 through 13, let's read the research question again together. What important jobs does this organ do as part of the digestive system? As I read these pages a second time, I would like for you to listen for information that can help us answer that question. There is going to be a lot of important information in this text, but focus on finding information that answers our research question. Remember, our research question is, what important jobs does this organ do as part of the digestive system? Mouth. The first step in the digestive process begins with the mouth. You use your teeth to chew food and break it into smaller pieces. Saliva in the mouth helps soften the food as it is chewed. This is because there are chemicals in saliva. They change the food. For example, they turn starches into simple sugars. Saliva breaks down the food into smaller pieces. Then the food is swallowed. When you swallow, the pharynx at the back of the mouth pushes the food into the esophagus. Esophagus. The esophagus is a tube made of muscle that connects the mouth to the stomach. Mucus glands line the inside of this tube. The mucus coats the food as it makes its way down. Food bits are moved down the tube by contractions. Contractions are like waves of movement. They move the food to the stomach. We have completed a second read of pages 10 through 13. Now I would like for you to record evidence on your organizer under Evidence. Remember, only record evidence about the research question. Our research question is about how the mouth and the esophagus are involved in digestion. Please pause the video now and write down your evidence. Make certain to refer back to the text to help you as you write your evidence. I know you all gathered some great evidence about how the mouth and esophagus are involved in digestion. I am now going to show you what evidence I gathered. For mouth, I gathered that it's the first step, that your teeth chew, saliva softens, chemicals break down food, and the pharynx pushes food to the esophagus. For the esophagus, I noted that the mucus coats the food, the esophagus pushes food to the stomach, and contractions push food to the stomach. Did you capture some of the same evidence that I did? If not, that's okay. Remember, we are in this together. That's why it's called shared research. Please pause the video now and add any evidence you have not already captured on your evidence organizer. Often, researchers have to read pieces of information on a topic several times in order to gain a deeper understanding of what is being communicated about that information. Over the next several days, you will have the opportunity to engage in something similar by completing reading fluency practice. After this lesson, practice this fluency passage as often as you can. We will also practice this passage together in upcoming lessons. Remember, it is very important to read with good phrasing and pausing. I'm going to model how to do this by reading this to you. Human beings need food in order to feed the body. The healthier the food is, the better it is for your body. But what happens to food once we chew and swallow? Food is processed in the body by the digestive system. It is broken down into smaller and smaller pieces. Then it is absorbed into the body. This gives the body fuel to produce energy. This time, chorally read the passage with me. Remember, choral reading means we read the passage all together at the same time. You'll be reading aloud with me. As you read, remember to focus on phrasing and pausing. Human beings need food in order to feed the body. The healthier the food is, the better it is for your body. But what happens to food once we chew and swallow? Food is processed in the body by the digestive system. It is broken down into smaller and smaller pieces. Then it is absorbed into the body. This gives the body fuel to produce energy. Excellent job, Coralie, reading with me. While we were reading the fluency passage, I'm guessing you might have read some unfamiliar words, just like in the chapters we read earlier. Today, we are going to be word detectives again. This time, we are going to use a special section of the book called a glossary. A glossary helps us to learn the meaning of words. Give me a thumbs up if you are ready, second grade detectives. Great, let's get started. To begin, I would like you to think about what you already know about glossaries. Then think about, why are glossaries important to readers? Take a few moments to think about those questions now.
Okay. Second grade, we have talked about glossaries before. If you could think about a few books that we have already read this year that had a glossary in them. Let's think about those. What are some other informational books that we read that you can think of that had a glossary? I am thinking back. I can remember a couple of books. You might be thinking about The Life of the Pioneer, The Journey of a Pioneer. There was a glossary in the back of that. If you remember the book about the Plains Indians, there was a glossary in the back of that book. So if you remember, in all of these informational books we've read so far, there's been a glossary in the back. Think about what is in that glossary. If you can remember what is in the glossary, turn to your learning partner and tell them what you find there.
Glossaries give definitions for important words. The glossary lists words in alphabetical order. Bold-faced words might be defined in a glossary. We can use glossaries to find out words we don't know. Often, we see glossaries in the back of informational text. We can use glossaries to be sure about a word definition or to learn more about the word, like how to pronounce it. Now that we've thought a little bit more about what we already know about glossaries and why they're important, we are going to examine some vocabulary. We are going to explore some vocabulary that is important to understanding the digestive system. We'll look for clues within the book, and then we'll turn to the glossary to learn more. Which words do you think you can find in the glossary on the back of the book that's displayed on this page? Did you say gastric and mucus? I bet you did, because you knew they can be found in the glossary because they are in boldface. I'm going to read pages 16 and 17. And then we're going to try to determine what we know about the word gastric and mucus. Don't drink this juice. Your stomach is made of strong muscles. It can stretch to hold about 3 pints of food at a time. When food enters your stomach, the muscles squeeze and gnash your food into smaller and smaller pieces. The cells lining your stomach release a liquid called gastric juice. It contains enzymes and hydrochloric acid. This acid is strong enough to dissolve metal. A mucus lining protects your stomach from the acid. Gastric juice begins to break down proteins. Proteins are found in foods such as meat, cheese, and eggs. Food stays in your stomach for 2 to 5 hours. Once it mixes with gastric juice, it is called chyme. The stomach releases chyme into the duodenum, this first part of the small intestine. A muscle called a sphincter relaxes to let a little chyme pass through it. The sphincter then releases tightly to keep the rest in your stomach. A cell, which you see here, is a very small part of the body, and acid is a strong material with a sour taste. They break down other materials. What did you learn about gastric juice from these pages? We learned that gastric juices are a liquid, that gastric is a liquid. It is full of acid and enzymes. It breaks down metal. Gastric juice also breaks down proteins in your stomach, and it mixes with food and becomes chyme. Using what you know about gastric juice, do you have any idea what gastric might mean? Take a moment to think about it. If we're not quite sure what gastric means, we can always clarify the meaning of this word by checking it out in the glossary. Let's go do that now. Can you find the word gastric in the glossary? Excellent, it's right here. Let's read the definition together. To do with the stomach. The word gastric has to do with the stomach. If you know the meaning of gastric, you can also determine the meaning of other phrases containing gastric. For example, gastric muscles are stomach muscles. Gastric movements just means stomach movements. What do you think gastric pain means? Take a second to think about that now. Did you say stomach pain? Gastric pain means stomach pain. Now we're going to follow the same procedure with the word mucus. Let's start by examining the word mucus in the text. Can you find the word mucus on this page? Excellent job. A mucus lining protects your stomach from the acid. Now it's your turn. I want you to pause the video and read pages 16 and 17. Then talk to your learning partner about at least 2 facts about mucus. Did you see that mucus protects? And it protects the stomach from acid? Now, let's see what additional information we can get from the glossary. In just a moment, I'm going to put the glossary up on the screen. It'll be your turn to find the word mucus in the glossary and try to determine what new understanding we have based on what we've read in the glossary. Please pause the video, find the word mucus now, and determine what it means. Did you spot the word mucus? Let's read the definition again together. A slimy fluid that protects the breathing passages and the stomach. Think to yourself and then share with your learning partner. How did using a glossary help you be a word detective today? Did you say you could use the glossary to help you check the definition of a word? Good thinking. Now, read the definition of mucus again and combine it with the information that we got from our text. Take a second to figure out what additional information that we didn't read in the text were we able to determine by going to the glossary to find out additional information about the word. We already knew that mucus protects the stomach from acid. We got that from our text. But when we went to the glossary, we got additional information. Detectives, we determined that mucus is a slimy fluid. We were also able to determine that mucus protects the breathing passages and mucus protects the stomach. You all did a great job being word detectives. We learned.
All right. Nice job, second grade. That was kind of a lengthy lesson for today. I think that's probably going to be our longest lesson for the week, but it's very important that we are figuring out at this point how to gather research, because that's one of our most important skills that we are going to learn before the end of the year, is how to gather research and then be able to write about all of that research that we have gathered. Okay, so the last little bit for today, let's look back and reflect on what we have learned. Were you able to practice using shared research on your own? We did. You should have probably found the information about mucus on your own and added it to the book, to your notebook. Why is a glossary an important tool in a book? What are some reasons why we would use a glossary? Did you learn the meaning of some new vocabulary words? Show me a thumbs up if you did. I learned some new words today. I learned mucus and I learned gastric. Those were both two new words. Okay, the very last part, this page that I am posting here is from our book, The Digestive System. And you are going to need this page when you answer your questions in your exit ticket. There's also a copy of this in the exit ticket, but let's read through it once together. So I have a few comprehension questions in there. One of our big skills is that you're able to read a passage and then remember what it is that you were reading or what it was about. So listen to me read this once through, and then when you go to answer your questions, there'll be a copy for you to read as well with those questions. Okay, the page says throwing up. You have probably had to throw up at some stage in your life. Vomiting is certainly unpleasant. However, it has a useful purpose. It is often your body's way of getting rid of poisons before they get in your bloodstream. The muscles in your abdomen squeeze your stomach. This forces the stomach to empty its contents back up the esophagus and out through your mouth. Vomiting is a reflex that once it starts, there is nothing you can do to stop it. Okay, so I would like for you to turn to your learning partner and tell your learning partner, what is the topic, what is the main idea of this section in our book? If you said that it is all about throwing up or vomiting, you would be correct. Think of a couple of details that help us better understand vomiting. If you could find 2 details about vomiting, turn and tell your partner about those 2 details. You may have said that vomiting is a way of getting rid of poison from your body. You may also have said vomiting is a reflex that once it starts, you can't stop it. If you've ever thought you were going to be sick and you tried to stop it, good luck, because you cannot. It is very difficult to stop that. Okay, so very next steps, complete the exit ticket. You'll need that passage. It's also a copy of it in the exit ticket. Give yourself a big hug for trying so hard and keeping up with your learning. This was a long lesson, so way to hang in there. I promise the next 2 will be a little shorter. Thank your learning partner for helping you today. They've been with you through this journey. And if you have homework, we don't have any direct homework, but I would love it if you are able to read something later today that interests you. Okay, that is all for today, scholars. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.